Welcome to this channel. My name is Janet. I'm working through the King James's Bible. I'm going through a few chapters each day. Today I'm in the book of Samuel, book 2, and I'm working through chapters 20, 21 and 22. So without wasting any more of your time, let's get started. So yesterday we've just come out of a war between King David and his son Absalom. Now he did not want his son killed, the king, but unfortunately his chief commander, his army man, is very much, a killer, trained killer, and he's out there to win the war. And he did. He successfully wins the war, but he kills the king's son. So he's been grieving and he's sort of having to come round to being a king again. So he's had to quickly get over losing his son and moving back into the palace and taking back the reins of being king. And as David is approaching his kingdom, Jerusalem, we start chapter 20. Now, as David returns to Jerusalem, he is confronted by a man named Sheba, and he's from the Benjamin tribe. Now, he blows his trumpet and he says, "We don't want David as our king, son of Jesse, a shepherd boy. Follow me, Israel." So he's calling to the Israelites who were in opposition of David, and some of them do follow Sheba. So he has a rebellion now on his hands. But the Judah tribe, they stay loyal to David. They don't run off like the rest of them. Judah stays alongside David. Now, when David eventually gets back to Jerusalem and he enters his palace, there is his 10 concubines. And as we found out in previous chapters, they had slept with his son. So they are no longer going to be part of David's intimate circle. They are excluded and secluded in an area. He takes care of them, yes, but they are now to be widows for the rest of their lives. Now, David, with this rebellion on his hands, he puts forth Amasa, who was the chief commander to his son. So he's given him the position to go out and gather men to deal with Sheba's rebellion. But Amasa is taking a lot longer than David had ordered him to. So David instead, he gets tired of waiting and he sends his royal guards to go out and do the job that Amasa should have done. So Joab now, David's commander-in-chief, and his brother Abishai, and they go out towards where Amasa is. Now, Joab, when he gets close to Amasa, he tricks him into thinking he's his friend, and he sort of drops his sword, so he thinks he hasn't got a weapon in his hand, but he's got something behind him, and he goes to hug Amasa, and this is when he stabs him. And then they both carry on to, their pursuit is to get this Sheba. So he's part of the plan, Amasa, and the people are obviously there. So one of Joab's men stands next to Amasa, who obviously is collapsed now, and he stands next to him, this man, and he says, "Who favours Joab is for David, King David, and to follow Joab." So the Israelites that are loyal to David, they start to follow, and they gather a nice army alongside them who are going to go out towards getting Sheba. Now Sheba fled to a city named Abel, and Joab and his army follow shortly after him, and there's a big army obviously coming towards this city, and a woman comes out and approaches Joab, and she says to him, "What do you want here? We're here as peaceful people. We don't want a war. What do you want?" And he tells her, "We don't want to fight with all of you. We just want Sheba because he's gone against King David. He's caused this rebellion. We want him." And she says, "Okay, we will bring him to you. We will throw his head over this wall." And they do. This refuge he's gone to, they've got him and they behead him. And that is the end of Sheba's rebellion. So Joab then and his men retreat and they go towards their tents, and then they go back to Jerusalem. And chapter 20 closes with us just seeing another rundown of the roles of the second administration within King David's team. So we have Joab again, he is still assigned the army commander-in-chief, and then we have also someone appointed as looking after the revenue, someone to be recorder, another are the 2 priests, which would be Zadok, who were before, and Abathana, and they also have a chief minister. If you want to know those names, as always, the link is under this video for chapter 20, so check it out there and you'll know exactly who's appointed which role. And there we have it. So let's move into chapter 21. Now, during David's second reign here in Jerusalem, a famine starts. And it goes on for year after year. And it's not until the third year of this famine that David consults with the Lord. And he wants to know why. Why is this famine going on? And God tells him it's because King Saul, the previous king, killed many Gibeonites. And I mean, the Israelites were meant to protect them, but during his reign, he killed many, and thus it's almost like karma. We now have this famine in the land. So David, taking action, he goes to the Gibeonites and he asks them, "What can we do to put this right for what Saul has done to your people?" And they said to them, "We don't want any resources off you, no gold or silver or foods or anything like that. We want 7 of the descendants of Saul, and we want to kill them and have them hung for what they have done to our people." And so King David agrees, this is what will be done. Now King David chose 7 men, but he didn't choose Jonathan's son, which was a direct descendant really, because he'd made an oath with Jonathan that his family would be protected, and it was an oath he'd made with the Lord, so he is not included in these 7 men. But he does pick 7 other descendants, and again, if you want to know who those descendants are, then check out the link under this video for chapter 21. So these 7 men are given to the Gibeonites, and they kill them and hang them out, and this is just before the harvest. Then a vigil is held, and some bones from Saul, King Saul, and his son Jonathan, which were taken by the men of Jabesh Gilead when they were hung by the Philistine and left. They'd taken some of their bodies, and they got those bones and basically they buried them along with the 7 men that have been hung in Zelah, and that's in the land of the Benjamin tribe. And this is when the famine finally ends and the land is kind of cleansed as God would see it. So life goes on and we go into another war again with the Philistines. So they've started to come back up again and war is raging. And David was out there on the battlefield with his men, King David, but he almost got killed. And it was one of his men that saved him. And on seeing this, the men realised, he's getting too old now to come out to the battlefield. So they said, this is the last time. You can't come out here anymore. So he agrees. It's time for him just to give the orders and for his men to take to the battlefield. Now another battle rages with the Philistines, and they have some giants in their army, these giant people. And it described there's one man there with 6 fingers on each hand and 6 toes on each foot. So he's a huge man. But it showed that even with these big men and without King David by their side, David's men defeated these giants and the Philistines once again, and it shows that power is on their side and the Lord is leading them into deliverance. And that closes our chapter 21. Now, chapter 22 is not something I will be going into detail of because this is about David. He's relaying a song that he'd written on the day he defeated his enemies and was free from Saul, King Saul. So that's when he'd written it. It's a very long song, and it's all detailed in this link under this video for chapter 22. It's about his deliverance, his journey with God throughout all of these battles, throughout his life, and he's giving sort of thanks and just seeing the power of God and all of those wonderful things that he describes about the Lord. That is all detailed in this song. And this closes our 3 chapters for today. So I hope this has been of use to you, and I will be continuing on my journey with the King James's Bible tomorrow, working through more chapters within the book of Samuel, book 2. Thank you for listening, take care, and have a lovely day. Bye.